Hi guys, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to show you Puremagnetik Verv, which is one of my favorite synthesizer plugins. It is a string synthesizer plugin and it kind of emulates the Solina a little bit. It also has these tape loop effects baked into it, which is quite interesting. What's cool about this plugin is that it is free, and it's one of those plugins that I always gravitate towards when I just need a quick sound. For example, if I wanted to record a melody right now, in all likelihood this is what I'm gonna put on the MIDI channel in Ableton, just to put down the melody. And in many cases, I just leave it there because it just sounds nice. It somehow turned out to be one of my most used synthesizer plugins on my latest album. Even on the one before, I used it a lot. And I have much more sophisticated synthesizer plugins, and yet I still use this one because it's just so immediate and it sounds so nice. It's really very simple to use. It has just a few controls. There's an attack and a release. There's also the tone and the shape control for changing the sound. You can morph between a saw wave and a sine wave, which changes the sound quite a bit. There's a sub-oscillator section too, and there's also a knob called spread for a sort of phasing effect. And then there are these two controls called crack and bake, which are the tape loop style effects that are on top of it. Personally, I have the bake all the way turned down most of the time and use Heinbach's wires instead. And wires, there's much more fine control over the sort of warble and crackle and hiss that you get. When I have the bake turned all the way down, it tends to be a bit quiet, so usually I put a saturation effect on it. Usually I use the free one from Softube, which is just called saturation knob, and it's a very simple effect with one knob, and it's super simple to use, and it just makes it louder beyond what the output control can give me when the bake is turned all the way down. Another plugin that I really like to use with this one is Puremagnetik's Verv, and for me that's really the sweet spot. When I want to have a more complex effect on it, then I use Verv. They call Verv a spectral ambient processor. It has a resonator integrated into it, so it produces sort of metallic sounds, and there's a delay in the space and the reverb, and it just turns it into something else. On YouTube there's this whole joke about rings into clouds being so universal and always producing nice, interesting effects, and it's just ambient on easy mode basically. And for me, Verv into Verv is kind of an effect like that. It's just so compelling that I just want to use it all the time, and I have to hold myself back not to overuse it. I tend to use it in the background at a lower volume and try not to have it take up too much space and be too in your face, and then it's super nice to add sparkles and whistles. Well, let's make some music with it. Recently I made this very simple drone on my modular. I used my AE modular as the sound source. I have this module called Drone 38, which is a sort of bank of oscillators that you can tune to each other, and you can have different banks of oscillators running at the same time. It's a sort of many oscillators type situation, and I really like it. And I made a drone with it in a very simple patch. I just used a couple of banks and plugged these into the Befaco ABC as a VCA and mixer. And then from there, it went into the Stripple, which is a stereo ripples. That module is really cool because it is a nice sounding filter, and it can also animate things in the stereo field. I had the resonance turned up, and then I was modulating it with the Bastel Neo Trinity, and I had some random LFOs on it, and that made this nice drone that was just moving in the stereo field and with resonance. It sounded like a filtered drone, and very interesting for me. And then I wondered what I could do with that. I actually recorded it in the arrangement view in Ableton, and that's very unusual for me. I normally do everything in the session mode, and I had it in there, and I thought, why not try to make an actual arrangement view composition? I rarely ever do that, so it was a bit of a departure for me. And it turned out a bit different from what I would normally do, because I normally work with clips and loops in the session view instead. So I took the recording of the drone that I made and I double speeded it in another track and put Puremagnetik Verv on it, which is a sort of animated shimmer generator with several LFOs. It's very interesting and another great Puremagnetik plugin that I really like. I already had one element that was really interesting and nice, and then I thought, what else can I do with it? And you know what I do when I don't know what else to do? Well, I'm gonna use Puremagnetik Verv, right? That's like my standard that I always do when I don't know where else to go. Oh, let's try Verv and see what happens. So I put that on there, and I extracted the harmonies from that recording, the double speeded one. I just dragged the file from the audio track onto a MIDI track with Verv on it, and Ableton extracted the harmonies for me. Of course, I had to fix it a bit, and Ableton never does a perfect job with this, but if you take out the stray odd note, it tends to be quite interesting, and sometimes it creates some interesting diffuse resonances. You wouldn't come up with those if you were just writing a melody, or because it's often very unusual what comes out of it. Then from there, I layered this with another version of it, and I put fathoms on it, another standard for me, and this was shaping into something quite nice and interesting. And I layered it with another octave down or up, or I can't quite remember what it was, but it was something like that, where I layered the same harmony over it twice. And then from there I knew that I needed something a little bit more catching, a proper melody and not just chords. So I took notes from the harmonies that I extracted and wrote a little melody from that. Something unfinished that doesn't resolve and that just hangs in the air a bit and creates this sort of tension. And that is what makes the second part of the track work. And this was the entire composition. It was just me playing around with Verv, and I thought I'd show you because it's quite an interesting plugin and it's free, and yeah, what's not to love, right? If you enjoyed the music on this video, you can head over to Bandcamp and check out my latest release, Hypnagogia, which features Verv quite heavily. There's also my first album, Endless Nights, which also features a lot of Verv, so that's worth checking out if you enjoyed the music on this. Please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps out my channel, so I would really appreciate it. You can also support my channel on Ko-fi. There are different membership tiers that will allow you early access to my videos or to download the music in them and, you know, that sort of thing. Check it out if you're interested and want to support what I do. This allows me to spend more time on these videos and it really helps. So thank you for that. In any case, I hope I see you soon for another video. Bye.